When off-road bike brand Niner first teased this full suspension gravel bike, much of the world was in shock, basically. But yet here we are 2 years later, and the Niner MCR is ready for release. A genuine full suspension gravel bike with 50mm of suspension at the back and 40mm of suspension up front. Is the world ready for it? Well, Niner have invited us out to show you the tech and also to see how it actually compares on the trail against their also new but more traditional RLT gravel bike. To find out, we are going to put them head to head in an epic gravel time trial showdown. As importantly as that, though, I will also explain how bike suspension actually works, because I suspect many of us have never had reason to know before, unless you're a mountain biker, in which case you've got a head start. You might already have heard of a short dual-link 4-bar suspension system before. Even if you're completely honest with yourself, you might not actually know what it is. Now, I don't know if when Niner asked us to make a video about their new bike, they actually expected us to turn up on their doorstep in Fort Collins, Colorado. But that's exactly what's happened. Here we are. Yeah. Before we head out on the trails, let's get one thing straight. Some of you might be looking at this bike and thinking, well, that's clearly just a mountain bike. But no, that's not a mountain bike. This is a mountain bike. And yes, they share similarities. They can both fit wide knobbly tyres, although the MCR is limited to 50mm, whereas this can go much, much bigger. And they both, of course, have active suspension between the front and the back wheels and the main frame. They share the same suspension platform, but to say that the bikes are therefore the same is a little bit like saying that a monster truck and a rally car are the same when clearly they're not. This one can do this, but it excels at this. Whereas the MCR can definitely do this, but it excels at this. And it probably can't do this. So is this a gravel bike then? Yes. And to prove it, here is another gravel bike that Niner have just released. This is the RLT, an unsuspended gravel bike. Now, the important bits that really define a bike, I think, are the position and the geometry of it. And in this case, both share the same DNA that has evolved from road bikes. So you can see they have drop handlebars, they've got drop handlebar shifters. The position allows you, if you wish, to get long and low so you can ride fast and comfortably for long periods of time. And the geometry, the all-important geometry, is also similar. So they feel kind of the same. They're lively, they're agile, and they're responsive. So with that amazing logic, not to mention amazing catching, hopefully we are all on the same page and ready to answer that question. What, if anything, does that bike do as well as this, and vice versa? To put them to the test, we're going to take them on a little loop that Niner have put together for us. It's got road, and it's got plenty of gravel. Climbing, descending, quite a bit of flat, and a cheeky bit of single track thrown in for good measure. You know, this feels a little bit like the 1990s all over again, when a whole bunch of cross-country mountain bikers had to be convinced of the merits of full suspension. I don't need it, I'm fine as I am. Hard to argue with that one. It's heavier. Can't argue with that either. This bike is about 1.5 kilos heavier than the very svelte RLT. And that, on a climb like this, will probably leave you going about 2 seconds per kilometre slower. So it kind of means that this is unlikely to be ridden in the Tour de France, but it doesn't concern people like you or me all that much. Then there's also the fact that if you fancy yourself as a little bit of a Marco Pantani and you like climbing out the saddle, the bike is going to feel a bit different. And that's because the suspension moves, whether it's reacting to a force coming from the ground up i.e. your bump, or from the top down, i.e. your body weight. To get around this fact, mountain bike manufacturers put considerable time and effort into refining their suspension platforms. And Niner felt like they cracked it right back in 2008 when they patented their CVA design, or constantly varying arc. And it's really clever. Basically, it holds the suspension under a little bit of tension as you pedal in order to minimize bobbing. But when you hit a bump, it overcomes that tension, or anti-squat to give it its proper name, and the suspension moves normally. But to minimize feedback to the pedals, that constantly varying arc means that the pivot location, or virtual pivot location, has moved. So effectively, in layman's terms, it keeps the suspension active without leaving you feeling like you're riding a sponge. If, though, you are on tarmac like this, you can flip the lockout levers, and that renders the suspension inactive, meaning you're effectively riding a rigid bike. And let's face it, tarmac is just a means to get to our gravel. The reasons why you might want suspension on a bike are various, but in this case, I think there are three that really stand out. Firstly, comfort. Now clearly when you have 50mm of air-sprung oil-damaged suspension between your bum and the trail, you're going to be more isolated from bumps. Now 50mm might not sound like that much, but Niner say that this shock has been tuned specifically for the purpose of riding on gravel. I believe it has a more supple mid-stroke.
On the MCR, we've actually tuned our CVA suspension characteristics to be suitable for the demands of gravel riding, which we envision riders sitting in the saddle, pedaling, and mostly hitting smaller bumps, what we would say low amplitude but high frequency types of bumps. And so the suspension will definitely hold the rider in the mid-stroke, but it'll be very responsive, very supple to high frequency bumps.
Now that alone can make it more efficient, but when you couple it with the third reason, then that's even more so. And that is that vibration is reduced when you have suspension. You might be familiar with talk about reducing vibration when we talk about why running lower tyre pressures on the road can be more efficient, and the same is true in this case as well. Vibration of the bike and the body really slows you down, and so when you reduce it, you go a lot faster, you move more efficiently. Reason number two is that you get more traction because your tyres are in contact with the ground for more of the time. You notice this particularly when climbing, but also when cornering and braking as well, to the extent that it can actually influence your tyre choice. You're able to run much slicker, faster rolling tyres and still have the same amount, if not more grip, but you get the benefit of that considerably reduced rolling resistance. I'm not sure anyone would question why you'd want it on descents. Woo! All here! In the short time that gravel riding has been a thing, or at least a thing with a name, it's changed a lot. From riding gravel roads on road bikes and riding cyclocross to taking drop bar bikes on almost mountain bike trails. Hence why we're including this one on our loop. A short section of very fun, nice and simple single track. Right then, run number one on the more conventional of the two bikes, and that this one, of course, doesn't have suspension. It's the RLT RDO, which is actually the carbon fiber race day optimized model. Now, Niner were one of the first brands to the gravel party, so they've had plenty of time to get the feel of their bikes just how they want. On the gravel spectrum, it's still more towards the adventurous end in that you can fit big tires, clearance for 50mm wide, even larger if you drop down to that smaller diameter 650B. It's got a slightly more upright and shorter position than you'd find on a road bike, but conversely, the wheelbase is longer for more stability. So even though it is fully rigid, it should be happy getting rowdy. Or here's hoping anyway. Beep, 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 beep. Run number 2 on the MCR or Magic Carpet Ride. Let's go. After a much needed shower and a much needed beer, I'm now able to hit you up with some results. Taking first place in the epic head-to-head gravel time trial showdown with a time of 11 minutes and 9 seconds was the RLT. 3 seconds back was the full suspension MCR. Closer than I was expecting, I'll be completely honest, but more interestingly than that is when you drill down into the results and you'll see that actually the MCR was faster over the twistier, bumpier sections of the course, whereas the RLT was faster on the smoother, faster sections of the course. Perhaps unsurprising, I guess, given that while both are gravel bikes, they do excel in different areas of the course, seeing as they are very different bikes nevertheless. There's a certain degree of simplicity to that RLT. Yes, the bearings in the full suspension MCR are Enduro Max black oxide bearings, which I'm reliably informed are basically the most durable ones you can get. They will still need servicing from time to time, as will the shocks. Something that mountain bikers are perfectly comfortable doing these days, but it's something that's alien at the moment to roadies and gravel riders. And so if you're off adventuring, then simplicity probably gets the thumbs up. And it's for that reason as well, I guess, that Niner have festooned the RLT with no less than 26 individual mounting points. You can find them here, 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 here. These you'd probably be familiar with. Here, 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 and here. For maximum adventure proofness, you could choose the steel framed option as opposed to the less expensive aluminium or the super light carbon option. And finally, there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting a traditional bike, because whilst fast is fun, fun bikes don't have to be fast. Where does then that leave the MCR? You might be wondering whether or not actually a 29, a mountain bike, would be better, given that that excels in twisty, bumpy stuff. Surely a 29er would be better still. And yet, definitely, a mountain bike is going to be faster on mountain bike trails. But then I also think it's probably going to be less exhilarating when the trails are simpler. More importantly for me though, it's actually the position that you adopt on the bike. Mountain bikes can feel very big. They have generally quite upright positions, very wide handlebars. So if I was going to choose to spend a day on a bike, I would definitely want one where I was closer to my road position. I think that's just generally a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more efficient at that end of the spectrum. Anyway, I would be very, very interested to know your thoughts on this subject. Are you ready for the next step in gravel bike technology, or are you something of a traditionalist? Make sure you get involved in the comment section down below. I'm sure you won't disappoint. Also, please give this video a big thumbs up. And if you want to watch another one, a gravel video, then why not check out the one on screen right now.